This is Ryan Elliott for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. We're in Los Angeles. It's fight day. KSI Logan Paul 2. Delighted to be joined by Amer Abdallah. Amer, haven't seen you since we were in Dubai a few months ago. How's things been? You been keeping busy?
I've been very busy. It's been non-stop, which is great for the fight game. Great outside of boxing. A lot of great business ventures going on. Fighters are doing well. Just a lot of great things happening, thank God.
Before we come on to what's happening tonight and what's been happening this week, 'cause there's plenty to go through, one thing I wanted to touch on firstly is something I've spoken to you about before, which is the Badou Jack Foundation. We spoke about it in Dubai, all the great work you guys do. Could you just sort of let me know how that's been going and what sort of things you guys have been doing as well?
Yeah, I mean, the Badou Jack Foundation, of course, Badou started that to help give children across the globe a fighting chance in life. And, we're not limiting it to any religion, race, nationality. It's global. But we are starting with refugees. And the refugees that we're starting with are the Syrian, Palestinian, and the ones in the orphans in Gambia from his father's native country. So we've developed a program, it's a self-sustaining nutrition program. And we've talked about it a lot. But, we're going to help these children and with their nutrition development, micronutrients, macronutrients, to give them a fighting chance in life and at least a fair shot at life, to be able to live a nice, happy, enjoyable life. Fantastic.
As mentioned, we've got a big event tonight, a seismic event, an event I don't think any of us can sort of put a label on just how big it is. Big boxing YouTube crossover. KSI, you've been around the team, watching him prepare. What's the mood like in camp today?
First of all, I'm very honored to have been asked to run his training camp. I haven't known JJ too long. It's a couple of years since they came to Las Vegas and trained with Badou for a couple of fights ago. And since then, he's been nothing but total admiration from him. A lot of people look at it, and even the boxing media look at it as, it's a fight, it's a clown fight, it's a circus. But listen, at the end of the day, these guys are absolute gladiators in what they do. I mean, even the YouTube world, to me, it might be comical, it might be, a little bit silly, but they are great at what they do. And it takes a certain kind of a person to be able to do that. And their music and their, everything else that they do. Listen, I don't know Logan, so I'm not going to trash him. He's on the other side of our sword tonight, so in that sense, obviously he's the enemy. But, even in his own right, he's established a tremendous legacy for himself. And these guys are giving it their all, and they're putting their legacies on the line. Today, earlier when I was just working out, I was thinking about it, and it really hit me that these guys got everything to lose. I mean, for somebody, okay, fine, it's the YouTube world, it might be comical and funny and silly, the boxing world, but these guys are really putting their legacies and their futures on the line, and how many people have the guts to do that? They're all in on this in a space that they're not familiar with. Jeff Mayweather said it, and people, they took it like it was an insult when he said they're not real fighters. They're not real fighters. Neither of them are. They're YouTubers. They're entertainers outside of boxing that have come into boxing. I mean, this is Logan's second fight. This is JJ's third fight. They're not real fighters. They're boxers and they're fighting as professionals, but they're entertainers. And listen, they're putting everything on the line tonight. And honestly, I think that is so admirable.
Regardless of, like you say, what the sort of hardcore boxing demographic think of this event, and there's been plenty of people with plenty to say about it, it feels like a sort of watershed moment for that bridging gap between the online world, the YouTube world, and boxing. One thing I wanted to get your opinion on is, these world champions we're seeing on the undercards of YouTubers. That's another thing that hasn't gone down too well with some people, but I know those guys, Devin Haney especially, see it as an opportunity. Do you see it that way, to sort of put yourself out to a new audience, and even if you can capture a tiny, tiny portion of the market, it's beneficial?
When this first manifested, when it first unfolded, and my marketing guy, John, said, you want to train a guy named KSI or actually be involved with him, and I said, what's a KSI? I had no idea what it was. But once they came to Vegas, and once I saw a taste, they came into Badou's camp, and JJ and Badou kind of sparred for a little bit, and that was the first time I met Vidal. As soon as I saw the reaction online and the views, I said, man, there's something there. My business sense kicked in. And, my motto is, this is a business disguised as a sport. And when I saw that business opportunity, Vidal and I started talking, and I said, listen, but they have a real fighter in camp, like a legitimate boxer that's just touching the YouTube world. And since then, he's gravitated, a great balance of both. But Vidal and I sat down, and we made a deal, and I manage him now. Vidal is that gap. He is the bridge that's going to merge that gap between the social media, YouTube, influencer world over to the real boxing world, because he's a real boxer that has that influence and has the support of all of those guys. Excuse me. So do I see it as an opportunity? Of course I did. I saw it before, the promoter tonight, Matchroom, before Eddie Hearn, who's never put a jockstrap on it, well, maybe on his face, but before he ever put a jockstrap anywhere, before he even liked it. And mind you, I have nothing against Eddie Hearn other than he said a couple of comments because he doesn't know who I am, and if he said something like that to me, I'd slap the shit out of his face. But these promoters never even saw it, and they refused to even interview some of the guys. Badou was there for the first fight, and he walked JJ out to the ring, and Badou caught flack over it. Why are you even involved in it? But now they appreciate it because there's an opportunity. There's a real business model. And listen, I applaud Matchroom for taking the fight. I mean, I wanted to promote the fight. Everybody wants a piece of it because it's a tremendous business opportunity. But they've done a great job promoting the fight. I think it was a brilliant move putting a kid like Devin Haney on the undercard, putting Billy Joe Saunders on the undercard. And, they have a couple of influences and things like that on it. But I think it was altogether, aside from the comments that Eddie made yesterday, I have total respect for the promotion and for them grabbing this opportunity.
I appreciate you perhaps don't know Logan Paul as well as you do JJ. You spent a lot of time with JJ now and got to know him as both a fighter and a person. But as I mentioned, it feels like we've got this watershed moment. And do you think it had to be those two guys? Like it's the two right guys at the right time for an event of this magnitude?
That's a great question. There couldn't have been two other guys that pulled this off. I mean, you saw that there's been YouTube fights since then and that have tried to piggyback off of it, and it just doesn't work. These are the two biggest personalities on both sides of the world. JJ brings that tremendous, humongous UK presence. Logan, the huge US audience. And, I think that the controversy that Logan had, and listen, everybody makes mistakes, man. Everybody messes up in life. And Logan had a hiccup in his life, and that's all it is. It's a hiccup. He's a young man, and he makes mistakes. But that controversy actually helps sell fights. I mean, that whole, the drama and all of that, it helps with the fight. People love seeing that. People love controversy. Nobody wants to hear an airplane landing safely. That doesn't make news. So they like to hear all of the controversy and all of the drama, and that's why this fight is selling. I think it'll do as good as it will.
Speaking of drama and controversy, yesterday we had a weigh-in. Yeah. Things got a little, out of hand would probably be the right way to put it. There was altercations all over the place. I can't even claim to have seen fully what went on. I was running around with my camera quite unsuccessfully while trying to keep track of what the hell was going on. One person I did see getting involved and sort of having back and forth with Shannon Briggs was yourself. I know there's been videos of you and Shannon sort of going viral overnight. In your own words, what happened and why did that altercation sort of come to fruition as well?
Let me say this to precede the story, that Shannon called last night and he apologized for what happened. And, Shannon and I have a little bit more of a history than what you see on camera because of Badou Jack and his relationship with Badou, and it really put Badou in a kind of awkward situation being there. But what happened was Shannon and I went back there because Badou wanted to meet Shannon, and he approached me and started having words. So I don't back down from anybody, man. I mean, it's not my nature. And I have no problem, if it's verbal, physical, whatever. It is what it is. And I'm down like that. So we had face-to-face confrontation. We went back and forth. Now, if I would have ever expected Shannon, given our history, to actually extend his hands, I would have, first of all, never allowed him to get that close to me, and second of all, made the first move. So I thought that was a little bit of a black eye on what he did. I thought it was a little bit of a low move. And I think that was justified in him calling and apologizing, because he didn't remember who I was from Badou's affiliation. So, but listen, at the end of the day, it's not crazy. This is a fight. This is a fight week. Everybody's on edge. I mean, right now, any single person on JJ's team, any single person, I don't know if on Logan's team, but everybody on this team, you push them the wrong way, they're going to explode. It's fight week. That's what's supposed to happen. I mean, people say, oh, Shannon's going crazy. Shannon's not going crazy. He's a fighter, and it's fight week, and that's what happens. The last person you want to be around in a fight, and fight week and the week before, is a fighter, because they're agitated, they're aggravated, they're short, their tempers, have there's no very short temper. It is what it is, man. It's a fight game, and if you don't like it, then don't be a part of it. But listen, I'm a Muslim. As soon as Shannon called and apologized to me, whether I wanted to accept it or not, I have to accept it. You know what I mean? And that's cool with me. But I would like him to publicly apologize for it, because right after he apologized, he also posted a video which I thought was probably tasteless. But it's all good. Listen, it's part of the game. I got my big boy pants on. I can take it, however which way it comes.
Going back to camp and sort of staying with JJ, he's learning all the time still boxing, even though this will be his third fight in front of the world. He's still learning all the time. What changes have you seen, and what changes have been implemented with him? And have you seen that fast development as well that you'd get with someone just starting out and trying to grow and training full time?
I was not really a part of his last training camp, so I can't gauge it towards that. I will tell you this training camp was probably the biggest transformation I've ever seen, not just of a novice or a brand new fighter or a new pro, but of any athlete that I've ever seen. JJ came into, when he came to, him and Vidal and the team came to Las Vegas 4 weeks ago. He was in a certain mindset. He was at a certain level, and the Las Vegas, as crazy as it sounds, he came to Las Vegas to get isolation. I mean, of all places, Las Vegas. But he had a closed private gym at City Boxing, and they took care of us and made sure that nobody had any access to him. And it was just a straight trench work, day by day. It was just hungry work, and he trained every day like he was starving. Really mentally, we took him to a point, and I can say that Vidal, Larry Wade, the entire team really contributed tremendously to this. Is they pushed him to a place mentally that I thought he would snap. I thought he would just cave in and just fold. And he did the exact opposite. He went silent for a day, and then when he came back, I could not believe the changes that he made. It was a different animal, it was a different monster. So for me, I said, let's bring in, a sparring partner to really push him. And we brought in a kid that has, pretty decent knowledge, very good power, and has quite a few fights under his belt. And JJ stopped him in the second round, and I said, man, this is a whole different dog. It's a whole different dog, and now he's his level of confidence, because he knows where he is now. So mentally, emotionally, he's on a whole different level. Physically, what a change, what a transformation. I cannot imagine JJ losing tonight. It would just be I've been around this game a long time. I would be absolutely shocked if he did not win, and not win in big fashion.
Going back to yesterday, both guys came in heavier than the first fight. Logan Paul, surprisingly to some, came in 10 pounds heavier, sort of pushed on towards the cruiserweight limit. Given the manner in which he sort of ran out of steam in the last fight, were you surprised he elected to come in much heavier for this fight? Was that a surprise?
No, I think that first of all, I know that there's a lot of talk about him, juicing and all of that. And actually, one of a close friend of mine who's a pretty big promoter called me and said, "You sure these guys aren't juicing up?" So I can't say that, because that's a very big accusation, and I would never accuse anybody of that. But listen, the first fight, remember, it was a white-collar fight, so there weren't any real guidelines, there weren't any real rules. We really didn't know what their real weights were. But this fight, fighting under the cruiserweight division, you have to make a certain weight. So I think that they're both very comfortable at that weight class, and I know JJ, and I've been around, and he's gotten tested and from a body fat percentage, from a nutrition standard, and he's just on a whole different level. This is a great weight class for him right now. Mind you, if he turned pro and he stayed as a pro, I probably would recommend he drop down a weight class or two. But for now, this is a perfect fight for him, perfect situation, granted the time that he has to get ready for it and where he is.
A couple more questions, Amer. I appreciate it's fight day. We've got a lot of stuff to get through. But there's a couple gentlemen behind the camera with me that I wanted to talk about. Vidal Riley sat behind me, someone you look after, someone who's recently signed a promotional deal with Mayweather Promotions as well. How excited are you for the future with the young man behind me here?
It would be easy for me to tell Vidal, calm down, slow down, don't let this stuff get to your head. But Vidal's a very grounded young man, and he's done a phenomenal job. His parents have done a phenomenal job raising him, and I don't mean to say that in his presence. I say that because the speed that he's progressing is not normal. You can't progress at that speed after just 3 fights. Remember, his first fight, not really knowing what he was about, we bought him a slot in Mexico just to see, and it was a close friend of mine that has a promotion there, and we matched him, and he did great. The second fight was on the Broner-Pacquiao card. The third fight, he headlined a pay-per-view card in Dubai. Now, before his 4th fight, he's signing a promotional deal, and a very great promotional deal with Mayweather Promotions. So, and then just that in itself, then you add to it the huge social media influence that he has, the huge network of support that he has from that side of the world, and his YouTube channel. He's multitasking this stuff. But mind you, let me say this: when it comes down to boxing time, all of that shit gets shut down. And he knows that. We don't play that game. When it comes to boxing, boxing is the one and only thing you do. In between fights, he has fun. He does what he does. He builds his brand. Because at the end of the day, this is a business disguised as a sport. And there has to be a lot of different, I think of it as a mall. There has to be a lot of different stores that contribute and pay rent. So you have to have several sources of income, residual income, but our number one primary focus is boxing. But he's way, way ahead of game. And we're looking forward to, I think he'll be world champion within a year, 2 years max.
It was interesting earlier when Vidal was brought up, you mentioned he could be a crossover star, one of these guys that sort of utilises social media, utilises YouTube and builds his brand alongside working exceptionally hard in the gym and getting the right fights, etc. That said, that blueprint that's sort of being laid out by the likes of Vidal, the likes of a Ryan Garcia maybe, do you think that's the blueprint that a lot of young fighters are going to start to follow coming through to sort of maximise their brand?
There's always a pioneer in everything, right? So Ryan Garcia took over the Instagram world and really did well and signed a very lucrative, he was the co-main event of Kovalev-Canelo, right? It's such an early stage of his life. And a lot of that is attributed to how big his social media presence is. I remember when he got into the ring one time, it put all the bullet points when he was in the ring. I was watching it at home, and it put the bullet points of the fighters' accolades. And one of the bullet points was, has 1 million followers on Instagram. And I thought, man, how is that even an accomplishment in boxing? But it is. And anybody that's ignorant to that is missing the boat and missing some huge brand offers, brand deals, sponsorship deals, because that's what sponsors and businesses look at. They don't give a shit about how good you can fight. It doesn't matter. It's about how many people, how many eyeballs can see what they have. And that's why Floyd was a master at that. That's why, now Vidal is getting the brand deals that we're getting for Vidal. I'm not getting for a lot of my big fighters. It's all about brand awareness. So is there something to be said about that? Of course. And if you don't see it, it's just ignorance. Listen, I'm 42 years old. I didn't know that stuff. But now I'm learning it, and I'm understanding it, and I'm seeing it firsthand, the fruits of the labor for that. But is that part in the sport growing? Yeah, it is. Vidal Riley is a pioneer in that because he's bringing all of those people over to this world.
And just to touch on Badou Jack, who's sat to the side enjoying his lunch, he's back out December 28th against Jean Pascal. Talk to me about that fight.
Right after the Pascal Brown fight, Leonard and I got on the phone, and I told Leonard I really would like that fight because we had other plans for some different things that we were going to do, but Badou and I loved that fight. First of all, we wanted the rematch with Brown, but this is the next best thing that we wanted. It's for a full world title, which Badou deserves. It'll be his third. He'll be crowned his third time officially, but he should have been 5-6-time world champion. It's going to be a great fight. All respect, Badou and Jean Pascal have a great relationship, and this is not a trash talking, at least between the fighters. Outside of the fighters, I can't speak on that, but the fighters have mutual admiration and respect for each other. But Badou Jack, December 28th, God willing, will be a 3-time world champion.
Amer, I won't keep you any longer. I've already kept you for 20 minutes. It's fight day. You guys have got a lot to do. So thank you very much for taking the time to speak to Boxing Social, and good luck to the team.